She didn't remember the bus stop being so small. It sat where it always had at the corner of Maple and 3rd, but the bench looked narrower. The glass shelter clouded with old scratches. Even the posted schedule seemed to lean away from her, as if it didn't quite recognize her anymore. She came every morning now, not because she needed the bus. She had a car, parked a block away, and nowhere urgent to be. But habits, once learned, were hard to unlearn, especially when they were tied to people. For years, she had waited here with him. They never planned it, it just happened. Same bus stat, same time. He'd stand a few feet away at first, pretending to read the route map, even though they both took the same line every day. Eventually, there were nods, then comments about the weather. Then small, easy conversations that filled the space between arrivals. They talked about work, about the neighborhood changing, about nothing that mattered and everything that did. He laughed quietly. She noticed. She wondered about him in the way you wonder about someone you see often, but never quite know. She never asked his name. He never asked hers. There was always tomorrow. Until there wasn't. Now she was back in town for the first time in 20 years, clearing out her mother's apartment after the funeral. The city felt unfamiliar, rearranged, but this corner had survived. So had the ache. She sat on the bench and watched the street the way she used to, half expecting him to appear. Hands in his coat pockets, eyes scanning the road. It was absurd. She knew that. People didn't wait forever. Lives moved on, or ended. Still, when footsteps approached, her chest tightened before she remembered who she was now. Older. Married once, divorced once, careful with her expectations. The bus arrived. Doors opened. People boarded. She stayed seated. Back then, the last day she saw him had been ordinary. Too ordinary to mark as important. They had talked about nothing in particular. He mentioned he might be taking a different route soon. She said something polite, forgettable. The bus came. They boarded. They stood side by side. She had felt it then, the urge to say more, to ask a question that would change the shape of things. Instead, she said goodbye like it was any other day. That night, she told herself she'd speak up tomorrow. Just one honest sentence. Just enough to let him know he mattered beyond the bus stop. Tomorrow never came. Now, decades later, the words were still with her, heavy and unused. I looked forward to seeing you. You made my mornings better. I wish I'd known you longer. She imagined saying them to the empty shelter. They sounded smaller out loud, almost embarrassed. Another bus came. Another went. Eventually, she stood. Before leaving, she touched the edge of the bench, a small, private gesture. Not goodbye, just acknowledgement. Some conversations don't end. They simply wait, unfinished, carried quietly through a lifetime. She walked back to her car, the city moving around her. And for the first time in years, she let herself say the words, not to him, not to anyone else, but to the version of herself who had once been afraid to speak. You were allowed to want more, and somehow that was enough to finally leave the corner behind.